With all the more recent talks of Dragon Quest potentially changing things up for its 12th mainline entry, things like, this is going to be the darkest game in the series, and even Yuji Horii saying they've made changes to the command battle system, has fans worried about the future of this incredible franchise that has thrived by the old standard of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. First, I'd like to say that worrying about anything is never a good thing. The act of worrying has never improved the outcome or turned it in your favor. All it's ever done is harmed your mental and physical health. Why is it then that Square Enix is always making us Dragon Quest fans worried for the future of a franchise that has always been successful in Japan? Today I'm here to talk about why Dragon Quest needs to change and what the biggest change they need to make is. Dragon Quest has been around in North America since the NES days, but it was shortly after this that the series dropped off the map for us Western fans. This unfortunately was an early sign of what would plague us fans for what still seems like the rest of the series' lifetime. Dragon Quest V and VI on the Super Famicom were never translated or released outside of Japan, despite Dragon Quest V even being mentioned, if I remember correctly, in a Nintendo Power issue. We did get Dragon Quest VII on the PlayStation 1 thankfully, but with little to no marketing or promotion. Dragon Quest VII was an incredible game that I always describe as a larger and more meaningful Chrono Trigger, what with its interactions with the past making huge differences to the world in the present. After this was the merger with Squaresoft, an incredibly successful developer in the West, with its Final Fantasy games on the Super Nintendo being instant classics, and the PS1 games being absolutely legendary. Surely with the might of Squaresoft now teaming with Enix, Dragon Quest would begin to get the promotion here that it's always deserved, right? Well, kind of, but only for a split second. You see, Dragon Quest VIII on the PS2 was unlike anything Dragon Quest fans had played before. This was the first game with the mighty JRPG merger Square Enix backing it. So it was a massive Dragon Quest adventure fully realized in 3D with all the modern technology at the developer's disposal. The game in and of itself was a masterpiece as far as most fans are concerned, and Square Enix, knowing the rocky history of releases in the West, decided to try boosting sales by including a demo of Final Fantasy XII in with the game at launch. This definitely helped boost sales, and had Final Fantasy fans who may have not been Dragon Quest fans check this game out just to get an early peek at Final Fantasy XII. Unfortunately, after this, Square Enix got even worse for not marketing or promoting their Dragon Quest games in the West. With the success of Dragon Quest VIII, you would assume its spin-off prequel featuring the fan-favorite character Yangus would have been a shoe-on for Western fans to get on the PS2, right? Well, nope. In fact, other than the games that Nintendo decided to do the publishing for on its own consoles, it always feels like Square Enix does everything in its power to self-sabotage anything released in the West that isn't some low-effort cash grab with a Final Fantasy VII sticker on it. It's not even fair to compare Dragon Quest marketing with that of Final Fantasies here in the West, so let's take a look at how Nintendo promotes Dragon Quest games they publish, as opposed to the ones Square Enix publishes themselves. Dragon Quest IX was shockingly announced and released on the Nintendo DS and had a magazine and video commercial campaign featuring celebrities like Seth Green talking about playing and having a blast with the game. Meanwhile, Dragon Quest Infinity Strash, despite being an upcoming game in the modern age of social media, which makes it much easier for even smaller creators like myself to promote their content, has had very little advertising, marketing, and promotion outside the odd post on the Dragon Quest only social media pages. This game comes out in about a week, and there are some Dragon Quest fans, let alone the general gaming audience, who don't even know about this game. Let's take a look at some games that Square Enix did do an admittedly decent job of promoting. Dragon Quest XI, for example, was promoted very well here in the West and went on to shatter sales records of the previous entries in the series. Dragon Quest Treasures, despite being a spin-off that many fans weren't super excited for, was actually also advertised and promoted very well. The sales weren't super great, but for a spin-off that many fans felt betrayed by when they originally announced it as a Dragon Quest Monsters game, then flipped the script, did fairly well. Speaking of Dragon Quest Monsters, the newest entry in the series, Dragon Quest Monsters 3: The Dark Prince, has for the most part been very well promoted by Square Enix and Nintendo alike. I say for the most part because yet again the North American trailers and promotion have been leaving stuff out. When I released my video a while back talking about the information on the pre-order bonuses and DLC before any of it was ever announced in the West by Square Enix, this was stuff that had all already been announced on Square Enix's Japanese website. There was also stuff in the early Dragon Quest III Monsters trailers that was cut from the Western trailers to, for some reason, keep us in the dark. The absolute cherry on top of this self-sabotaging madness was this most recent Nintendo Direct with its big announcement that the demo of Dragon Quest Monsters 3 The Dark Prince is out now on the Switch, which allows you to play the first part of the game for absolutely free, and your progress will carry over to the main game. So of course all us Western fans have been flocking to the Switch's online store to get our hands on an early look at the game, right? Oh wait, you don't remember this being mentioned on the Direct? Well, that's because they went the extra mile to actually cut this announcement from the English broadcast of the Direct. Yeah, that's right, they took the extra time to edit out part of the Direct for a demo that was going live in the West at the same time for a game that is coming out in the West. Dragon Quest always had some very high quality spin-offs, with most of them tying into the main series either as sequels or prequels to mainline entries. Dragon Quest Monsters 3 itself is a prequel to Dragon Quest 4, which you'd think would make this the perfect time to release the Zenithian trilogy on Switch, so they can be played on modern consoles before the prequel comes out. But no, that would be easy money, and Square Enix would rather shit out another gacha Final Fantasy game instead. If you want to know more about why now is the perfect time for the Zenithian trilogy to come out on modern consoles, I did an entire video on it. Look, this is the kind of garbage us Western Dragon Quest fans have unfortunately become accustomed to. Missing out on great Dragon Quest games like Dragon Quest Monsters 1 and 2 remakes on the 3DS, the majority of the Rocket Slime games, and even the Switch-exclusive Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 version with extra content like having Ragnar playable in the game. This Switch release has already been translated in English for the Asian release of the game, but is completely unavailable to us in the West via physical release and even digital download. Officially, we're even missing out on the fantastic MMO main entry in the series, Dragon Quest X, which I'll be making a video on soon, because you guys need to play it now that, thanks to the Clarity Project, is fully playable in English. Even the offline version of the game, which was announced during a worldwide Dragon Quest event stream, was soon after revealed to not be coming to the West. All this on top of Dragon Quest III HD 2D getting announced like 3 years ago without a single peep of information or mention since, makes it incredibly frustrating to be a fan of the franchise outside of Japan. At a time where Final Fantasy isn't even an RPG anymore, and Square Enix is apparently hemorrhaging money, perhaps now is the time to make the most important change they can make. Maybe it's time for Dragon Quest, a series known for its consistent quality and traditional gameplay, to take the center stage for the company. Despite some modern Final Fantasy fans claiming turn-based is dead, other franchises like Baldur's Gate, Persona, and even the Yakuza series has been having a ton of success with it. People are hungry for high-quality turn-based RPGs, and Square Enix could capitalize on this by shifting their primary focus back to the series that has never let fans down. Now is the perfect time for Square Enix to capitalize on Dragon Quest's successes and push for more exposure in the West, instead of chasing fads that are long dead by the time their latest projects are released. The biggest change Dragon Quest needs to make is to actually be supported by the company that makes the games and do a decent Western marketing campaign. All we can do as fans is hope for this to happen, but given Square Enix's track record as of late, things are looking pretty dim. Thanks for watching. Please tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications to all so you won't miss the next video. If you'd like, you can also catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Dookie03, where I've been streaming Sea of Stars and Dragon Quest X. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.